They've been the talk of the transfer window. Let's have a look at Nottingham Forest business and how this might all play out. Welcome back to Dearly Departed. The transfer window has slammed shut, but Nottingham Forest's very next game ends in deflating home defeat to last season's championship rivals, Bournemouth. I'm going to take a look at this much talked about recruitment drive from Forest as ever. Make sure to have your say down there in the comments on what is a fascinating topic. Forest won promotion from the Championship last season in utterly spectacular fashion. It was a brilliant managerial performance from Steve Cooper, who took over in September, flew up the table and won the playoffs in May. Whilst the promotion was spectacular, I'm sure each and every Forest fan would concede it was more a lightning in a bottle rapid ascent over 9 months than a slow and steady step-by-step promotion built over several seasons. Cooper magnificently used the tools at his disposal and the loan market to get Forest up to the Premier League. This meant that the Forest squad promoted at Wembley contained 5 loan players in key roles, both wing-backs, Max Lowe and Jed Spence, central midfielder James Garner, number 10, Philip Zinkenagel, and rampaging forward Keenan Davis. Teams using loanees to get themselves promoted was certainly not invented by Nottingham Forest. Championship clubs have borrowed assets they maybe wouldn't be able to sign full-time due to FFP limits to great effect over the past few seasons. Diogo Jota, Willy Bolly at Wolves, Mitrovic in promotion number 1 at Fulham, Ben White at Leeds, Matheus Pereira at West Brom, Bobby Reid, Fulham promotion number 2, Ben Gibson at Norwich have all been promoted from the Championship during some kind of loan agreement. Now, in most of those examples, the clubs weren't quite as reliant on loan players as Steve Cooper had to be. Probably the best comparison we can draw for a promoted team that had some really key loan players prior to Forest was Aston Villa in 2019. They went up through the playoffs, and while they did own their greatest asset in Jack Grealish, they started that final with Mings, Tuanzebe, El Ghazi and Abraham all as loanees. When Villa went up, what did they do? They signed 14 permanents and 2 players on loan. But Forest have gone ahead and beaten that figure this season. Now, I'll try and preemptively stand up for Forest and other promoted teams a little bit here, because there does seem to be a bit of a double standard when it comes to promoted teams who are quickly relegated. A bit of a damned if you do, damned if you don't scenario when it comes to spending. Fulham, for example, were hugely criticised for breaking up their 2018 promotion team. Unlike Forest, that team had been built over 2.5 seasons, signed a load of players, Fulham, and then fired Slavisa Jokanovic, the boss, after just 12 games. The exact opposite was true of Norwich. They've been widely panned for being promoted twice in the past 4 years, finishing bottom of the Premier League then both times. The Canaries were accused of not having a go and spending that lovely pot of Premier League TV money in a much more conservative recruitment approach that has, though, however, allowed them to dominate in the Championship in the event they have been relegated. Right then, let's dive into these Forest signings, and I guess there are 3 questions to answer here. Are the players good enough? Can the manager knit them all together? And can they afford to do what they've been doing? Have a think about that, ready to comment at the end, and while you're there, do hit the thumbs up button, support the video and the channel. Right, here we go. In come 2 goalkeepers, Dean Henderson on loan, Wayne Hennessy as an experienced backup. I think we can all give that a big thumbs up, especially given Henderson's start to the season. 2 right backs come in, Williams and Biancone. I like Williams a lot. I know a few players have been tarred with the expensive sale from Liverpool, but I think he's decent, and I think we'll find out whether he's Premier League quality very, very soon. 3 left backs in. Toffolo, was he a bit of a hot hand in terms of the Championship last season? Richards, who has been out to Bayern Munich, was at Reading, not played in the Premier League before. Lodi is very interesting. He's come in on loan. Richards picked up an injury pre-season. And I suspect he has the highest calibre and credentials coming from Atletico Madrid. Centre-back is going to be very interesting, as I think it's been proved already that Worrell, McKenna and Cook are going to be given a chance to get ahead of some of these new signings, but new signings in at centre-back there are. You would imagine Niakate, he was expensive. He's probably going to end up going in. Bolly and Koyate, okay, Koyate's played plenty in midfield, but I saw him in the flesh playing at centre-back for Forest. They might be more squad signings just to add experience and that nous to the group. Bade is on loan. He could also cover at right back. So maybe Niakate is the one who's going to end up going in there. In midfield, O'Brien's been linked with the Premier League. Might take a little bit of time to get up to speed there. Can't say the same for Freuler, who has a very strong pedigree. And Mangala played plenty in the Bundesliga. Ryan Yates has come through at Forest and been used by all the managers when he's been there. Will he finally get lost in the shuffle in central midfield? We'll find out. Up top, Brendan Johnson is obviously the big asset that Forest are going to want to continue to develop. Jesse Lingard is probably the most proven high-level arrival of any of the players who've come in there. Emmanuel Dennis did well in a pretty stinky Watford dressing room last season. Tayo Awoniyi is another Bundesliga arrival. And Morgan Gibbs-White, we think, is the most expensive signing. He was magnificent for Sheffield United in the Championship last season. Bags of talent. Can he do it at the top level? To address that oft-quoted 21 signings number, it should be said that Hwang, Bola and Aguilera all signed up only to be loaned straight back out. 3 players are also in on loan themselves. Still plenty of arrivals. I get it. Let's go back to those 3 questions then. Are the players good enough? Can the manager knit them together quickly? And can they afford to do what they're doing? Well, are they good enough? Here's a Forest team that they could possibly put out. I appreciate there's plenty of options here. Henderson in goal. McKenna, Niakate, Worrell at the back. Wingbacks, Williams and Lodi. Freuler and Mangala in midfield. And up top, some kind of combination of Gibbs-White, Lingard and Johnson. I think pound for pound, might not get in the top half or push for Europe, but surely good enough in terms of player quality to stay up. And in terms of goals, that would obviously have Awoniyi and Emmanuel Dennis ready in reserve. Can the manager knit the squad together quickly? Well, the evidence says that Cooper has been able to get squads moving quickly, albeit not yet at Premier League level. At Swansea, he won 6 of his first 7, having taken over from Graham Potter. And of course, last season at Forest, he organised a far more disparate bunch into a winning machine. Can they afford it? Well, we all know the answer to that basically depends on survival or not. In the Premier League, providing you're not breaching FFP, most decisions on spending can be justified by simply staying in the division and banking another year's worth of that lovely Premier League TV money and all the goodies that come with it. As much as it's a bit of a fantasy world, while you're there, you can afford it. It's if you go down with big liabilities where the worrying will start to begin. A short-term winning scenario for Forest is fairly obvious, isn't it? Finish 17th or above and work towards becoming a viable, long-standing Premier League team. Yes, the approach is bold, but the players seem decent. The manager is highly rated. And as I've said, the ends kind of justify the means. If they stay up, it was a good strategy. If not, it was a bad strategy. So far, I'm not quite sure which way we're going yet on pitch. Great win over West Ham. I was present to see the mauling at Man City. Far more prevalently, though, Forest cannot afford to lose at home to fellow promoted teams, having led as they did against Bournemouth at the weekend. The losing scenario for Forest is obviously relegation. But even then, we know that given the presence of those giant parachute payments, relative squad quality and that huge financial gulf between the top 2 divisions, a competently run relegated team should, at a minimum, have a massive advantage in terms of getting themselves back up. Since the parachute payments dropped down to 3 years and the Premier League TV money kept growing, there are countless examples of teams bouncing back in that 1, 2, 3 year period. In terms of resale value of a lot of these signings, Forest have bought in 12 players on a permanent basis under the age of 26. Should relegation happen? Yes. Bad? not disastrous if they can cash in, depending on the performance level of these new signings this season. In conclusion, yes, Forest have indeed hit the reset button. They probably needed to do so. And yes, they have gambled. To what extent, we will find out. Look, you know what football discourse is like. People get entrenched and it goes to the extreme very, very quickly. Yes, you will see Forest fans completely blindly defending every single one of these signings. And yes, you will see people, maybe from the outside, criticising purely based on the amount spent and the amount of players coming in and assuming it has to be reckless. As ever, neither of those positions will probably be true. Some of the signings will work out and some of the signings won't. As a whole, whether this recruitment drive gamble works depends mostly on survival, but even then, relegation plus competence normally equals another promotion, another load of Premier League money and an overall movement up the food chain. Look, the comparisons to Fulham in 2018 don't quite feel right, as that team was far more gradually built and the manager here, Steve Cooper, will likely last more than 12 games. They're in a far different spot ownership-wise to Norwich. I think the Villa one is the most apt comparison here, and Villa are now in season 4 in the Premier League, which I'm sure all Forest fans would happily replicate. Let me know what you think down there in the comments. To check in with case study Aston Villa and see where Forest may or may not be in 4 years, why not click here and you can see my pre-season thoughts on where Villa are at and where they're going in year 4. Or if you just want to go back to the good times and you're a Forest fan watching this, click up here and you will see my lovely day out at Wembley, where Forest were promoted back in May.